It has, by all accounts, been a good day for Lee Williamson, the former sub-postmaster from County Tyrone, who was caught up in the Horizon IT scandal, is to have all of his wrongful convictions quashed. The 49-year-old was fully exonerated after prosecutors ended any opposition to the legal battle to clear his name.
Lee was among 26 postmasters from here to be charged because of the defective Horizon computer software. Lee spoke to us just before we came on air today. Let's hear a little of what he had to tell us earlier. He said that a cloud has most certainly been lifted from him and his family.
It's a great amount of relief, but at the same time, there's still a lot of empathy with all the other sub-postmasters in similar positions.
In terms of what you've been living with for the last, goodness knows how many years, how has that felt? How was that to live with that hanging over you, Lee?
There's a lot of things that there's obviously the stigma of a prosecution, and you're trying to get your life back on track, and you're almost hiding the fact that you have been prosecuted. And you're reluctant to actually say anything because you want to protect your family. You don't want the stigma being sort of cast onto your children when they're trying to go to school and trying to make their own way in life. So that whole sort of cloud hanging over you has been lifted now, and that is the biggest relief. It's really, for my family, that it's a small community here in Northern Ireland, and everybody sort of knows everything. So you have the stigma of being bankrupt, and the stigma of going to hospital for poor mental health, and the stigma of a criminal conviction.
Well, to be clear, all of the postmasters under a law that just got across the line really before the last general election were told by MPs in Westminster that they would have their convictions for fraud and theft overturned. That was kind of blanket legislation, but there were other ancillary bits of convictions that certain postmasters had. That's what we're talking about today. Lee Williamson had convictions for forgery, and that is what makes this a line in the sand, that all of the convictions have now been overturned. This is the first day in many, many years when he can stand in Castlederg in front of that small community of which he is a part and say that he is officially now completely and utterly exonerated.
Yeah, you can hear the relief in his voice. And joining us in the studio this evening is solicitor Michael Madden, who represents Lee and some of the local victims of the post office scandal. So, what a day.
Not many days like that. There's been a lot of bad days for Lee over the years, and today's a great day, and I hope he gets to enjoy it.
What has it taken to get to this point?
The legal proceedings were not straightforward. Whenever we first got involved with Lee back in 2021, there was a lot of work to do. Although a lot of information had come out in the public, a lot of information come out through the inquiry, there was still a lot of work to drill into Lee's individual case. A lot of the information that we gathered was through reports that we obtained through forensic investigators. Second Sight was a firm that we used, and they were able to access information directly about Lee's branch. So even though there's information out there was still a lot of information to get, and so there were a number of hurdles they got over to get to this stage. And in fact, it was only the last few weeks where the prosecution had conceded the appeal. Essentially, they no longer challenged the appeal. So right up until a few weeks ago, we were facing a full hearing where it wasn't absolutely clear that we were going to get the convictions overturned.
And how many other people are sitting in the same position from Northern Ireland?
The new legislation that's come in has quashed the convictions from the 24th of May of this year. There are letters to be sent out from the DOJ, so they're going through a process where they have to identify the convictions. That's a bit of a process that they said would be done by July. We're now September. They have been in communication with me and said they had hoped to have it done before the start of October. Hopefully they meet that time frame. But I have about half a dozen people in that position. There were 26 people, I think, who were charged, I think, 19 convictions. So that's the kind of number we're talking about. They still have to have
six
convictions.
people still waiting to.
I think there's more than there are people that I represent, but I think there's maybe certainly over a dozen people still have to have their convictions overturned.
But are you on the home straight, as it were, that in this case, in Lee's case, you have the combination of the Westminster law and the Public Prosecution Service then ending its opposition? Is your expectation that this is now a matter of process for the other half dozen that you represent to get across the line and be where Lee is?
Absolutely. It's a matter of identifying the cases, which I would have hoped would be fairly straightforward. The difficulty maybe is that some of the convictions are quite old, so files have had to be found, but it's really just identifying the cases. Once the letters come out, then we'll be able to ascertain where we are with people. There may be complications that were unexpected. We'll just have to deal with that as it comes, but hopefully...
Well, there always is in legal cases, isn't there? But I just wonder, are you seeing the speed and appetite to get this wrapped up from the authorities that you might expect and that people like Lee would expect?
The legislation came in really at breakneck speed after the ITV drama came in, and the huge public swell of support that came after that. So that legislation has been in since the 24th of May. We've been told July. Again, we're now in September. We have been told it will be before October, so I'm expecting it to be quick, yeah.
What about compensation?
Once the convictions are confirmed, once the sub-postmasters have had their convictions notified, then there's an automatic compensation scheme of £600,000 for people. If they feel that might not meet the redress that they're owed, then they can have their claims assessed. But at the very minimum, £600,000 is eligible.
But it would be inaccurate to suggest that all of the postmasters across the UK are singing in chorus that it's all better now and they're all fine and they move on. There appears to be, at numerous points, frustration at what has not been done yet and what remains to be done. What's your perspective on that?
There's a lot of work that still needs to be done for a lot of people, because any claims that have to be assessed requires further work to be done to get documents, financial documents, which are hard to come by. So the feedback that I've heard is that it is quite slow for a lot of people. The more complicated cases just don't seem to be moving. So they're really, you would have hoped by now, still be a lot of pressure on Post Office, on government to really get these over the line. But moving forward, but still not there yet for a lot of people.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming in. That's Michael Madden, who's a solicitor representing Lee Williamson, but there are many others, a dozen or so maybe, across Northern Ireland still waiting. We're grateful for that. Thank you.